Hello and welcome everyone to this Balkan History Association online book launch. My name is Timothy French. Today we will look at the latest volume release of the Balkan History Association titled Parks in the Balkan Capitals, Leisure, Urban Impact, Monuments, Stories, and Significance. Published by Peter Lang in the series Southeast European History, the volume explores parks as places of pivotal significance in the social, cultural, architectural, and economic history of the capital cities in southeastern Europe. It is a project initiated by the Balkan History Association. Joining us today are the editors of this volume, Dr. Alexandra Milanova and Dr. Anna Maria Lepăr. Dr. Lepăr has a PhD in history from the Nicolae Iorga Institute of History in Bucharest and is assistant lecturer in history at the Faculty of History at the University of Bucharest. Dr. Milanova has an MA in International Relations and a PhD in Modern and Contemporary History from Sofia University, St. Clement Ohridski, and is an assistant professor at the Institute of Balkan Studies and Center of Thraciology at the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. So, parks in the Balkan capitals, leisure, urban impact, monuments, stories, and significance. Welcome, Dr. Lepăr and Dr. Milanova. The floor is yours, Dr. Milanova.
Thank you so much, Tim. And thank you, dear colleagues and friends who are present here today for this booked presentation. I will share my screen now. I hope that you all can see and hear me. Tim, is everything all right with the presentation?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, great. So here is the agenda for our event today. I will be the first one to speak, and then I will pass the floor to my dear colleague Anna Maria. We will briefly say a few things about the project, the editors, Anna Maria and myself. We will talk about how the idea for this volume came about, and then we will present the contents, the significance of this book, and of course, where the book can be ordered for all of you who would like to examine this topic in depth further. And of course, we will share our ideas for the future, and then we will give the floor to you for your questions and comments. I'm very happy to see in the audience some of the authors in this volume, so maybe afterwards they would like to share something with us as well. So the book Parks in the Balkan Capitals, Leisure, Urban Impact, Monuments, Stories, and Significance brings together scholars from different disciplines, perspectives, and national contexts to explore one of the most familiar yet often underestimated elements of urban life, the public park. This evening, we gather not only to mark the publication of this edited volume, but also to acknowledge the scholarly commitment and perseverance that made it possible. This volume is a project initiated by the Balkan History Association in 2021, and it was developed in collaboration with the Institute of Balkan Studies and Center of Thraciology at the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences I'm affiliated with. My dear colleague Anna Maria Lepăr, a member of the Balkan History Association, prepared the initial call for papers, and I joined the project shortly thereafter. The Department of Byzantine Philology and Folklore Studies at the Faculty of Philology of the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens also supported its development. Parks in the Balkan Capitals is part of the Southeast European History series. This single-blind, peer-reviewed series is published by Peter Lang in conjunction with the Balkan History Association and comprises original, high-quality, disciplinary and interdisciplinary comparative study of Southeast Europe from ancient to contemporary times. It welcomes submissions in several formats, including monographs, edited volumes, conference proceedings, and short-form publications on various subdisciplines of history, such as political, cultural, military, economic, urban, literary, oral, or the history of science communication, art history, history of religions, and archaeology. Further information can be found at the link shown at the bottom of your screen. This volume was co-edited by my esteemed colleague Anna Maria and me. As I already mentioned, Anna Maria is a member of the Balkan History Association and the International Society for Cultural History. In 2015, she defended her doctoral dissertation on the history of Bucharest in the 18th and the 19th centuries at the Nicolae Iorga Institute of History of the Romanian Academy. From 2013 to 2021, Anna Maria served as assistant lecturer in history at the Faculty of History of the University of Bucharest. As for myself, I have a background in history and international relations, and I'm currently an assistant professor and scientific coordinator at the Institute of Balkan Studies and Center of Anthropology at the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences in Sofia. In addition, I teach at Sofia University and Osaka University. Over the years, I have received several awards in the fields of humanities, social sciences, and culture. I'm a fellow of the Royal Historical Society, a counselor of European Network Association, Europeana, and the first and only representative of Bulgaria to date in the Global Young Academy. How did the idea for parks in the Balkan capitals come about? Well, the project emerged from the observation that research on the Balkan landscape from a historical perspective remains underrepresented. At the same time, we aimed to offer an alternative approach to understanding nature, particularly urban parks from a perspective beyond the classical framework. You know that parks are usually perceived as places of rest, greenery, and recreation. We walk through them, meet friends there, exercise, observe the changing seasons, or simply pass by on our way to somewhere else. Yet parks are much more than pleasant urban spaces. They are mirrors of political visions, social transformations, cultural memory, and everyday life. In the Balkan capitals especially, parks carry layered meanings. They reflect imperial legacies, socialist modernization projects, nationalist narratives, democratic transitions, and contemporary urban pressures. They are spaces where monuments speak, where collective memories are negotiated, and where the relationship between citizens and the city becomes visible in everyday practice. This volume examines parks not only as landscapes of leisure, but also as arenas of symbolism, identity, conflict, and coexistence. The contributors investigate how parks shape urban development, how they preserve or erase sometimes historical memory, and how they participate in the ongoing redefinition of public space across the Balkans. What makes this collection particularly valuable is its comparative perspective. By bringing together studies from different Balkan capitals, the book allows us to see both the shared historical experiences of the region and the distinct local trajectories that have shaped each urban environment. The result is a dialogue across cities, histories, and methodology. At a time when cities are increasingly challenged by commercialization, privatization of the public space, environmental concerns, and rapid urban transformation, reflecting on parks becomes especially important. These spaces are not marginal to urban life. They are central to how societies imagine community, accessibility, memory, and the public good. And now for the remaining parts of our presentation, I would like to give the floor to my colleague and co-editor, Anna-Maria Lepar, to continue the presentation of the volume.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, depending on your time zone. Thank you very much for joining this session. And thank you very much for the great introduction done by Alexandra Milanova. So she had a great contribution to this volume. We worked together, and my part that I will present is related to the contents. We received several articles from different, let's say, researchers from different backgrounds, and we tried to organize them in a way that give a full shape of this volume. So we came into to this way of working to have 4 sections. The first section being dedicated to parks and city modernization, and here the most represented city is Belgrade. We received 3 articles, one related to the spatial structure of the invisible memory from University Park from Belgrade, which is a beautiful park in the city. Another article is related to the everyday naming of another Belgrade park, Luke Celovic. And the last article on Belgrade Park is related to how the transformation of the urban landscape affected the parks in the city. Again, in this section, we tried to add another study of two parks, Kalemegdan and Tasmaijan. Another one was apart from Skopje, with so different ways of describing the evolution of that park, the impact of the history on how it developed, and in the end we had the Green Heart from the capital of Moldavia, the park dedicated to Stefan the Great. And somehow you see there are different cities with different history, different traditions, but somehow they have a common, let's say, message, how the evolution of the civilization had impact in these green spaces in the city. And we can see that there is somehow a similar message that, if we study the evolution from 18th, 19th century until now, we can see that the trend is similar in most of the cities, regardless of the fact that they are in different countries. And somehow the parks become more a place to gather, more a place to interact on different activities, and as well, unfortunately, due to this higher urbanization, most of the parks lost, let's say, the initial surface that was now used to create more buildings for the inhabitants. The second section, that for me it's very, let's say, one of the favorite one, because it comes with some interesting information that you don't find on always, and somehow it brings me to that part of the history that when we discuss about cities, we can have as well in our vision how they evolved from not just as a place of economical and social part, but as well places for, let's say, occult societies. And this article from Giordetta Nazorka, Parks of Sofia, Spaces for Occult Societies, is very interesting to see how parks became a place for these groups that come and try to create some plans for their organizations and so on. So it's a very interesting article. And I think most of the readers will enjoy this one. The third section, we try somehow to see as well the parks and the literature. And we had an article on how the park Zrina Joak from Croatia was represented in the prose from interwar period between 1918 and 1941. It's a very interesting article. Why? Because you can see the image of the park in the mentality of the people and in on how different generations and different social classes see this park. And the last section, which is a little bit uncommon, is how the parks can be used as church courtyards. And this is the last article that we received about church courtyards with park function in Athens. So this is how the volume looks in a general way. It's very interesting that we have different cities from Balkan. As you can see, we don't have an article about Bucharest because after I graduated my PhD, somehow I tried to invest most of the energy to create a monography of the parks from Bucharest, and this will be, let's say, the next volume from this series. And this is the reason there is no articles about parks from Bucharest here. I will go to the next slide. I think it's easier if I... Okay, if we see this volume and we ask, okay, which might be the significance, we can see that we try to bring together all the traditions from different countries, from Balkans, and these parks somehow, they're a good radiography of the social life, the economic life, the history, the trends, and as well the architecture. As we can see, these parks serve as spaces of relaxation. In some of the cases, they are reducing the urban pollution, so they shape, and this is the most important, the urban landscape, and not only this. They host public events, and in the end, we can say that they express the urban identity and they integrate the nature into the life of the city. As I already stated, this volume is focused on the parks from Belgrade, Sofia, Zagreb, Skopje, Chisinau, and Athens. The articles that you will find into this volume, you'll see that they gather several sources, novels, memoirs, visual materials, maps, statues, plans, stories that were somehow transmitted from into the communities. And in the end, if you're interested to see this book, you can order from Peter Langu website, I think as well on the Amazon, and you can have as well the PDF format and the printed one. And as we stated, the second volume will be dedicated to the parks from Bucharest. It's a monography that I'm working for more than 6 years, so it will be a big one. And if you want to see more information about all the projects that we want to put in place, you can follow our site, Balkan History, and that's all from us. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and yeah, the floor is to our guests in case you have any questions. And I would like in the end to send all my big thank you to Alexandra. It was a great collaboration, and it was a wonderful experience for me working with her, and I hope that we'll reiterate this, and as well to Mihai for coordinating this series, and to Timothy French for hosting this presentation. Thank you so much. I will stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, indeed, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to all the authors and contributors in the volume for their patience and persistence throughout all these almost 5 years. Of course, a big thank you to everybody at Peter Lang for their support, to Mihai Dragnia, the president of the Balkan History Association and the series editor of the Southeast Europe series at Peter Lang, for his continuous support, and for all the conversations and exchanges that helped us a lot. And thank you, Tim, for agreeing to moderating this event, and to everybody who made the time to be with us. And I hope that some of the authors who are present here today would also like to say something about their experience.
Thank you, Dr. Milanova, and thank you, Dr. Lepăr. So yes, that was I actually have the book. I bought it, and it's a great read, and I'm eager to see if there are either any questions. If there are, you can raise a hand, or if one of the authors wants to make a comment about their contribution to their chapter, feel free to raise a hand. I did just want to make a quick comment or observation. How did you notice, or how did it come about? I mean, when we think of history, we think of generals and battles and prime ministers and constitutions. So this area of history about parks and what parks tell us does seem like a very neglected area. So what was the origin for this, as far as recognizing a need for this type of volume?
Well, from on the one side, I think you will agree with me that at least my belief is that there is not just one and only history with a big H, but many histories. And as my PhD dissertation was about everyday life in the Balkans, so everyday life, it was like a central topic for my previous research. And the thing that we said about the parks being somehow neglected, so some perceived like something ordinary, like easy part of our life, something that is not extraordinary, we decided that maybe we need to pay more attention on parks, not only as a leisure spaces, but as venues for different events, for monuments, and for transmitting the history in the everyday life. I don't know if Ana Maria would like to add something to my observations.
Thank you so much. Yes, in my case, this idea came when I wrote my PhD, and well, half of my thesis was as well related to pleasure and social life in Bucharest of 18th, 19th century. And somehow I discovered that the parks are not just a place where you go and meet your friends and so on. In fact, there are some places of memories, of history, of somehow a connection between generations. I started with an article dedicated to park, short story of Kiselev Garden in 2016. And from that moment, I was, okay, it's a nice part of the history that somehow it's close to us, it's in front of us, but we're neglecting it somehow. And this was somehow the moment when I came into this idea, what if I start to create a monography? And then I met Alexandra and we created that call for paper and we extended this idea.
Something else I found interesting in the book was the idea that when you're in the parks, many of these parks have occupied the same space for centuries. So when a historian or archaeologist or anthropologist examines the park, they can see evidence or remnants of earlier history from that park. So the park tells many stories because information can be understood from earlier times by looking at that park. That was one of the things I found interesting about the book. I was also thinking about how, as you stated earlier, how a park is a green space. Perhaps in the summertime, we visit a park to escape the heat of the apartment flat. And as I try to always visit parks actually when I take my visits to the Balkans, and I was thinking about times I visited Sofia, Bucharest, Thessaloniki. Of course, there's trees and there's sometimes ponds with boats, but I also noticed there's lots of monuments in the parks and statues, and it's not always. Many times it's statesmen or former prime ministers or leaders or statesmen, but many times there'll be monuments in the park to educators, school teachers, artists. So I was also thinking about this, how a park tells many histories, I guess, how and also what is chosen to be put into a park at any moment in time to represent history as the powers that be want it to be related at that time by what monuments are chosen to be put in the park. I don't know if either of you have a comment on that.
Well, first, I think we, and by saying we, I mean people living in Southeast Europe, are somehow lucky because we have a lot of parks and green spaces in general, which is not so common in other parts of Europe or outside our continent. So we are lucky on that thing. And you're right that there are a lot of monuments, sculpture, pieces of art, even churches. The last article in the volume is about a church courtyard. So there are a lot of stories, histories, but also memories. Also testimonials, let's say. So parks are also a space where the past and the present coexist.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that answer. Are there any questions from the audience? I do not see any hands up. Let me look. I can also look in the chat. You could enter it in the chat or in the or raise a hand. But how long is this book was recently published? It's been out now for what is this? Was it this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, last month.
Yeah,
and
it's very fresh.
And I know I was able to go online in the United States at Amazon and purchase it with no problem. So it is available for purchase. And again, thanks to all the contributors, all the authors who put their individual chapters in, and thanks to both of you for the editing process.
As well, I see, as Alexandra stated, some of the authors here, so maybe we can give them as well the floor to present some of their experience and how they faced all this process. I know it was a long one and a lot of work, but it's very rewarding in the end. So I think they can share with us the joy of having, in the end, their work published in such a great volume that can be purchased from Peter Lang or from Amazon. And so I think
if anyone,
can start, Marta.
Yeah, if anyone would like to share from the contributors, from the attendees who contributed, if you want to say anything about your specific chapter, feel free. But again, the thing I like about this book is, and about any history book that does what this one does, which is fill kind of a niche, a missing spot where there's not been a lot said or written about it, where you can make new discoveries. That's one of the things I like about this book, that it brings something fresh to the field of history.
And we also hope that by issuing this volume, we will somehow encourage further research on the topic or related topics from historians, anthropologists, cultural experts, architects. So we hope that this is just the first step.
And Dr. Lepăr, you said that you are working now on another volume that will be specifically about Bucharest parks?
Yeah. So if you are interested, you can get a flavor by, I'm not sure, should I socialize the entire idea here? I don't know, but you can search on the internet. In 2016, I wrote an article about Kiselev Park, which is close to me. In fact, it's the park where I spent most of my childhood there. Yeah, short story of Kiselev Garden. And from that moment came this idea to try to create for each park a monography. Why? Because somehow the city evolved, and some of the parks in Bucharest, at least, are losing most of the territory in order to create new apartments and so on. And I think they deserve more from us, and at least for me, as well, having a PhD on history of Bucharest, and then being somehow part of this city and being the first generation here in Bucharest, somehow I have a, let's say, a special connection with this environment, that I think I have to give something back to the community by at least writing and using all the sources that we have. So if you want to have a flavor on how the new volume will look, you can have a look on that article. And in my case, I choose 10 parks from Bucharest, and I still have to work. I'm not 100% done, so it's still work in progress. But once I will be ready, yeah, I will give the manuscript, and yeah. So this will be the next step into this area.
Thank you very much. That sounds good, and I look forward to that. Eager to read about that. So I do not see any questions or comments. So I guess unless somebody raises a hand here in the next minute, we will just finish this up. I was going to see if there's just any final closing comments. Dr. Milanova, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, it was a pleasure working with everybody on this volume. So I hope that this book will have many readers, and that they will like and continue the research on the topic or related topics. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Lepăr, do you have any closing comments?
I would like to thank you, first of all, to the authors for their contributions, and if they would like to have a piece, we are happy to to have a second volume of Parks in Balkans as well. Then as well, I would like to thank you very much to Alexandra. We worked exceptionally together. To Mihai, and of course to you for hosting this webinar. Thank you so much. And happy reading.
The happy reading. Thank you. Thanks to both of you, the editors, and thanks to the contributors, the authors who made the content of the book possible. And thanks to Dr. Dragnia of the Balkan History Association. That concludes this webinar, and I'm sure we'll have more coming up. You can go to the Balkan History Association webpage, or you can go to Balkan History Association on Facebook. Dr. Dragnia will be posting other events in the coming future, other webinars, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much.